Mic. Camera. Action.
Joseph, I'm really sorry to bring such awful news.
Where? In the river.
The city near to Canary Wharf.
One of those rich guys.
Yes, they think she was killed by a client.
The police give a shit?
Of course they do. David is a good man.
Really? He's a good man. Good. Good for him. Good.
If you dare to be angry about Isabel, you're a hypocrite. I've asked around about your job for the Chinese boss. They say Crazy Joey deals drugs.
Just deliver the stuff. I don't touch the stuff.
The autopsy said Isabel touched the stuff. Maybe stuff you delivered. You don't put those things together in your head.
You know why she ended up in the river? Because that's what the river's for. To wash away girls when they're finished with them. What's else happening in this f***ing city? How many people you feed these days, huh? You give them soup. They want their lives back!
Welcome back to the Filmography, the show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from the Focus Filmography and consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. For episode 31, I'm joined once again by Maff to discuss their 31st big screen appearance of the Stath in the multi-mistitled, in my opinion, Hummingbird, aka Redemption. We watch, you listen, and you hopefully watch along too. So, Maff, thank you very much for coming back. Thank you for returning to the show. And I think it's an interesting one you've come back for because it's another attempt by the Stath to move in a more dramatic rather than kind of action-tastic role.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's interesting. 13 was last time, and now 31. So we've swapped the numbers around. This is slightly better than the previous film that I watched, but yeah, I think it's good. It kind of goes back to his Snatch, Lock, Stock kind of his acting chops. Yeah, we do get the action there from him. It just shows that's still there, but he does seem. It does seem to chew the scenery quite a bit in times. You do kind of feel the presence for him, and I think he's quite believable in what he portrays in there. It's not your general action Jason Statham. Let's just go around and kick ass. There's quite a lot of layers to the story, I think, in this. So yeah, I'm glad that I managed to get this one. And it's been a favourite. Me and my wife watched it many years ago. And when it came on the list, and I thought, yeah, I've got to have that one.
You're absolutely spot on. There are moments of action where they afford him to cut loose and do what he does best, and we'll definitely talk about those as we go. I agree. I think he's good in this. I think he does downtrodden introspection really well when he's doing that, like staring off into the distance, and you can tell that his character is thinking deeply about a previous situation or where he is and how he's got there now, or I don't know. He does sell that really well. And we said just before we started recording that, and I'm sure we'll keep coming back to this as we talk, there are some similarities to Safe here, but I think there's been a progression in the way that he can perform those scenes compared to Safe. In my opinion, I think Safe's probably a better movie, but I think his performance here in those moments are better.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where his face doesn't change much, but he acts a lot with his face. It's that, as like you say, that look into the distance of that troubledness behind the eyes. As we grow into the film and we learn more about him, we understand why that is, and I think they've got that quite well. I have a bit of experience myself on that. Um, I do think that he portrays it. He portrays someone who is going through an awful lot. Um, and further down the line in the film, he does actually mention the fact he keeps himself drunk so that he
Mm-hmm.
isn't this machine,
Mm.
But once he's sober and he cuts loose, you can see there's a lot of cogs working in the background there. And
Yeah.
yeah, it is one of those where he can, without saying anything, he portrays an awful lot on the screen, and it's that presence he's got.
Yeah, presence is the right word. And I think that's where you can see that development in him. It's interesting you mentioned like his earlier roles, back to kind of Snatch and Lock Stock, where I guess maybe Snatch more than Lock Stock. I mean, they still were kind of comedic, weren't they? They were in the like his dramatic side. I guess how I think of this compared to those is they were more in inverted commas real characters. There you could
Mm,
believe there were people that existed in the world, whereas some of the characters gone on to play later in the Fast movies and the Meg, which are great movies and they're great characters. Not just those, but they're the ones which jump out. They are movie characters. They're not believable people, are they?
yeah, yeah. Where in this, I think he's a lot more relatable. I think you can see there's a more of a human side to him in this.
Mm.
Like you said, I mean, in Snatch, I think I can't remember the guy who plays Tommy, but
Stephen Graham.
yeah, Statham's like the straight man to Stephen's more the kind of comedian and the kind of bounce off each other that way.
Hmm.
And he does have that, that stoic kind of, iron exterior
Mm.
and that, but he portrays it really well and he bounces off Stephen quite well. In this, I mean, it he's with Christine a lot, but a lot of the kind of the film is all on him. He's
Mm.
in probably like 90% of the film. It's not often we're cut away from, Jason Statham, where sometimes you do have that bit of breathing room between the character. In this, you are pretty much following him all the way through,
Mm.
and he has to portray all that.
Yeah, definitely. He's like an ex special forces, ex military guy, isn't it? I
Mm.
don't know if they. You might remember. I can't remember if they specify specifically what. And as you said, we get these little snippets, these little flashes, don't we, throughout the movie. It starts with one straight off the bat, and
Yeah,
it's unsettling. You don't know what's going on, and then we almost get them as like little mini dream sequences as we go, don't they? And they put in mind, particularly the main dream sequence, which is when he's come across this wealthy, I think he's a photographer,
yeah,
the flat. He's in escaping from criminal these London underbelly criminal types. He stumbled across this empty flat, and he's there isn't even asleep, and he wakes up from a nightmare. Um, that one there, particularly, I don't know why. Put in mind like the Terminator when Carl Reese is waking up, and
yeah,
he's thinking forwards to the future, backwards for him. Um, but yeah, there was something about the way
it,
these moments were revealed to us, which was letting us see more, understand more about the person through them reliving their experiences through their nightmares. I don't know.
yeah. It's showing that PTSD, that kind of, uh, you know. I was saying to you before, I had a friend who unfortunately has passed away, but he was in the army. He was a sniper. Some of the things he's told me, some of the stories that he's gone through, still haunted him up until unfortunately when he passed away. Um, and he did relive them, and there was an issue that and it took him a long time from when he did leave the army to, he started, he came out and he met someone else and he had kids and what have you. But there was them first few years were quite hard that he would wake up and he was scared that his partner at the time and that was she safe next to him because
Mm,
he'd wake up in a haze. Like what Statham does in this, he sees his squad around him that just being shot up in the
mm,
back of the APC, and he just reacts to it, and he
Mm,
grabs something. He thinks he's shooting his gun, and that's the thing. It's muscle memory that just kind of kicks in. And then obviously you see he's sweating and all, and that's what it's like. It's what a lot of people kind of have to deal with, and
mm,
it's unfortunate. I do think that we, for our ex-service people, don't support them as well as what could be done. A lot of times people get let out, and it shows him living on the street, which is where a lot of unfortunate people end up. Um, and part of that isn't just because of life choices. It's a bit of a comfort in a way because they're used to living in a hole, living in a certain way.
mhm,
So it's something they can kind of control. And you go from spending your life living someone telling you what to do all the time to all of a sudden it's up to you now. You do what you want.
mm.
And it's a hard adjustment and that. So living in a little box with just a little community, just kind of it it's something that they can kind of get back into and feel that they, have some form of control over it all. And it's there are programs out there, but sometimes people don't want that help because they feel more safer in this little isolated bubble that they put themselves in.
Mm. I, I'll be careful how I word this, but what you're saying is really interesting. As we depict in kind of movies and documentary stuff. I guess it's kind of similar to when people come out of prison. They're so conditioned
Mm,
to living in a particular way that they really struggle to adjust. Because there's something there in which you said a lot about being told what to do all the time, and you can kind of see that there's a relationship there between that sense of like everything you do is kind of measured and restricted and controlled, and then suddenly there's boundless choice
yeah,
that would be difficult to adjust to. I can see that.
we see it in Shawshank Redemption
Mm,
when the old guy comes out
mm,
and within a week he hangs himself because he's lost his structure. He's lost his, you know, it, you get to the point where you're used to someone telling you when to get up, when to go to sleep, when to eat, when to shit, when to do all
mm,
these things. And although you're still able to make your own decisions on certain things, that that comfort knowing that someone's kind of giving you a certain order and you know what to do. And like Jason Statham says in the film, like he's a machine. He just goes through the motions, and it's second nature. It's comforting to him because he knows what he's doing. Whereas,
mm,
you know, to live in the real world, the only way you could see it of doing it and not hurt people is to get drunk all the time.
mm,
To get high, to get drunk, drugged up and that because he's not he the person that he got made into, he can't control that. So he has to dampen it.
mm. Yeah, the line you mentioned, I looked it up. He says, "When I'm sober, when I'm healthy and well, I hurt people. I'm lethal. I drink to weaken the machine they made." And the way he delivers it is really powerful, isn't it? It's actually fairly towards the end of the movie, but
Mhm.
um, it needs to be at that point in the movie because we need to be able to see both sides of that character. We've seen him drunk and out of control, and we've seen him violent and in control, but in a very different way.
There's like we normally do, flipping all over the place. There's a
Mm,
scene in the film where he's, I think it'd been maybe a month or so. He'd been living in Damien's flat,
mhm.
and he's all dressed up nicely, but he's had a drink, and I think he puts his arm around a lady, and her boyfriend kind of gets hold of him, pins him against the
Oh,
wall,
that's
and kind
right.
of
Yeah, yeah. I think it's
he doesn't
the first
react.
night maybe because he's wearing the nice clothes
Like, oh, it might be,
and he's like
yeah,
cut his
because
hair.
he is still drunk and that. Because
Mm,
he doesn't react. He just kind of he has a slight flashback to
mhm,
Afghanistan, which yeah they do say it's Afghanistan at the start, because the drone is the
mm.
Hummingbird drones,
Yes,
which
that's where the
is
title comes from, isn't it?
which
Yeah.
is where the title. I don't know why they changed it to Redemption, and that
Yeah, we'll
it's.
talk about the title later. I'm not sure either of them are quite right, but I've got some other
I
titles
think
which
it's.
we used in other countries as well. I thought I'd introduce you to them
Oh
and see
right.
what you thought worked best.
because Hummingbird was in the UK, but I think Redemption was in the USA,
Yeah,
and
and
I think
the
they
nun
saw it
has
as a redemption story for him.
yeah, and
Whereas,
it's on the side of the panel van that the nun, who we definitely have to talk about,
yeah,
that the nun drives, isn't it? It's part of her church is something Redemption Church. So I
yeah.
guess that's where they got that title for as well.
So yeah, it's but when he gets pinned up and he doesn't react, he's just like he knows he could do. He knows he could, you know.
Mm.
I mean, again at the start when with I can't remember what she was called, Isabel,
Isabel? Yeah.
and that she says, Joey, don't fight back,
Mm.
don't fight back, because she knows what he's capable of doing,
Mm. She's obviously
and
seen it
that,
at some point on the streets with him. Yeah,
you know, and again further down the line when he meets up with them two guys, he shows what he's able to do, which is
absolutely.
quite
Yeah.
graphic, and that. But yeah, that's the thing. He's dulled himself so that he can just kind of get by, exist to a certain degree.
Mm. Interesting us talking about this because I think I'm coming into this movie and this discussion again in a similar place to us when we spoke last time, and I think you're coming in at a higher point than I am to begin with in the conversation, much like last time. But you're convincing me of some more of the layers and some more of the depth than I think I was noticing on the watch the
Mhm.
other day. I think you're really like illuminating that for me like really successfully.
I think it's one of those. I do have a habit when I watch something to try find. If I'm going to spend my time to watch something, it's not often I turn it off. So I try
Mm,
find some good in everything, so it's not a complete waste of my time. Maybe because I do have some, military background, that this does kind of hit me certain ways a bit more. Um, but it's I think it is one of them things that because I have a little bit of experience there from myself and from friends, um, I can see certain points. And maybe, the normal person wouldn't
mm,
if you've not been in the services, you wouldn't be aware of that. You wouldn't be aware of the fact that, people do come out and it's like, thanks for your time, off you go, guys.
mm,
Well, what do I do now? Good luck. It's unless if you go into any of the armed forces just as a soldier, as a grunt, unless you're picking up a trade like being a chef or being a mechanic and so on, coming out is hard because the skills that you've got, aren't normally to fit most
mm,
jobs in
mm.
the real world, and so it's that's again why a lot of people end up on the streets because they're not sure how to get back into society and to live that way. And again, I do think that they could cover this quite well, especially at the start of how he's just trying to kind of get by and just trying keep himself to himself and keep out of the way. Um, and
Yeah, as you
then
said, it
again,
opens with him homeless, doesn't it? And he's with Isabel,
mhm.
and he's got long, lanky hair. He's got kind of his revolver hair, which is not a good memory for me. Um,
At least he has hair.
yeah, true, true. They almost kind of try to hide that it's him, don't they? They try and sort of disguise that it's him until there's sort of a reveal later on.
Yeah, you can't really. You can still tell it's just. I mean,
Mm,
he does actually look a little bit. I think maybe with the clothes that he's wearing, it does look a little bit more dishevelled, a bit more kind of. It's like he's pulling himself in
hmm
so that he doesn't look as big as once he puts one of them suits on, and all of a sudden it becomes 10 times a man.
hmm
He does try to kind of bring himself into his body so that he's a small person, he's a small target, and people just won't notice him.
mm.
Whereas once he's sober, once he's kind of doing certain things, and he's got a bit more authority, and that even when he's just like working in the kitchen as the washer,
hmm
when they call him through, all of a sudden he's like, like Captain America, stand to attention, off we go. He has his purpose then,
Mm,
whereas
mm.
other times he does want to just kind of hide in the background.
I think that was an interesting part of this movie that I think it handled in a way perhaps a different movie wouldn't. In that, yeah, so he's chased, isn't he? These guys come and they like rouse all the homeless people up in this area, and they steal all their drugs and their money. And yeah, he fights back, but he's not in a conscious enough place to utilize his skills, like as we said, like deliberately so. He runs and then he ends up falling into this flat, doesn't he? And then he uses
Yeah,
the guy's credit card that he finds and the PIN number to kind of clean himself up. Like he wears his clothes, he cuts his hair, and then he uses the address, interestingly, to get a job. And then he
yeah.
starts earning his own money and with the goal of paying the guy back. I thought that was a really interesting angle that he wasn't just going to steal from him. It was about this is a place where I can start to build myself back up again from. I just thought that was
I,
quite a different take.
I think through it, it shows that he always wants to give something back, which I think that kind of comes into further down the line when he admits what he did,
Hmm.
and why he's a deserter. You know, he's AWOL, and that he's trying to repay for things that he's done. And he appreciates the people that have been there in the past. You know, but when he buys all the pizzas and he's buying in Chinese and things like
Mm,
that for, you know, giving money to Christine. You know, first he kind of says that's you, but then he's always trying to do a good deed. There is good in him,
hmm.
and that he's not. He's not a sleazebag. He's not there. I mean, you know, we have it with Christine later. He's quite respectful of Christine,
Hmm.
and that, you know, he doesn't seem to take advantage of the power and the abilities that he's got. He's trying to do the right thing,
Mm.
even if he's doing some of the wrong things to get to do the right things.
Yeah, she's the nun that runs like the homeless soup kitchen,
Yeah.
essentially, isn't she? And he's obviously been going there. They know of each other, and that's as you said. That's who once he's got some money of his own, he buys like pizzas and Chinese, and he sends it all, doesn't he, by takeaway delivery to there. She knows it's from him because he'd previously been to see her X amount of time before. We don't really know, as you said, and
Mm.
gave her some money. So we start to see that relationship develop. I do really want to talk about that as a subplot in a minute because I think we're jumping over a bit because it's a natural fit in our conversation. But I did find that scene when he's the pot washer and then they say like, "Oh, we've got some trouble. Come out to the front to help us out." I did wonder how they knew what what conversation do you have? Well, you can be our dishwasher, and what a couple of days in, he's like, "If you have any trouble, come and find me." Like, how did they know that he was going to be able to deal with it? It was a
I mean, maybe it's one of those things where they, you know, they judged a book by its cover. They looked at it and thought he can probably handle himself. You know, he's a bit bigger than any of us guys. Let's
Mhm.
ask him. But then again, it all kind of it goes over month after month and that. So he may have been working there for a while. It may have just come up that at that point he's then getting himself fit and he's
Mm,
doing
mm, mm.
he was doing boxing and he was doing karate on the rooftops.
Yeah, the Stath
So
bod is in full view. Yeah.
yeah, I mean we you know, your checklist is going to get pretty much ticked apart from one thing, I think, in this one. But it is one of those things where if he's been working there for a while, they're aware that he
Mm.
is of some form of keep fit, then ask him to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't even know if it was a case of it was a bunch of football yobs essentially, isn't it? That are in a
Yeah.
they're in a Chinese restaurant, and so I don't even know if it was a case of kind of a cultural like you go and talk to them, try and persuade them to leave. Like we've tried, and they're being racist to us, they're being rude to us,
Mm.
because there is kind of a bit of oh, what when he takes them down. There's a kind of a little bit of surprise, isn't there?
They
But
don't
he doesn't just
expect.
take them down; he absolutely annihilates them. It's a great scene.
I mean, it's the thing is, he defuses it quite quickly,
Mhm.
and he gets them all outside. It's just at that point, then when there's a big group of them, and it just takes one of the mouthy ones to think he's a big and hard,
Mm.
and that. Which I do like when he goes to punch him, and he just puts his arm up and just blocks it as if nothing's happened,
Yeah.
and the guy's a bit taken back. Um, And then obviously, like you say, they all have a bit of a go at him, and he just. I think one of them does land a punch on him, but he pretty much. I think there's 8 of them, and they all just get taken down very quickly.
Yeah.
At which point, the guys in the restaurant are like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
we can use him."
Yeah, because they're connected to like the local
I
crime.
think there's triads out there. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I don't think they're ever named, but I assume that's what it is, like the London
yeah.
the triads. Yeah, absolutely. So he sort of quickly gets promoted up to like a kind of heavy within that group, doesn't he?
Mhm.
Debt collector and general all round scary.
General Muscle.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where all
Yeah,
the money's
because
coming from. But then, like you said, he's then using that money to do good. He's stockpiling for his future, and as it's revealed in the movie, for the future of his ex and his daughter. But
yeah,
he is also using the money to help people in the immediate moment, isn't he?
I think that's the only criticism I do have the film is that there's a couple of things that kind of drop in there with
Mm,
it not as if they've got these bullet points and they want to hit them all because there's a bit further down the line when he does with the human trafficking
mm,
and
mm.
it that felt a bit forced. Like I get that he had to do something
That's a
that
thing
no
that
one
these
else
people
wanted to
do, so
do.
we have to show it in the movie at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah.
So, but then it's kind of shown, and then that's it. I mean, they do mention it briefly later that he would tell the cops on them,
Mm.
which is nice of him. But yeah, that felt a bit forced. Same as the bit with his wife and his daughter, just it kind of got dropped into the plot.
Mm.
And that,
Mm.
as if to say, well, we've got to give him another reason to show how much of a nice guy this guy is. But then he then kind of questioned when he came out, what happened there. Did he come out and go back to his wife and then leave because he couldn't deal with it? And so it leaves a lot of unanswered questions because you just don't know really what's happened there. But
Mm.
I think that again is to show this other side of him that again he's trying to provide, he's trying to, you know, because we have that awkward moment with his daughter. He's like, "Can I hold your hand?" And that, and as a parent, you can kind of understand why he's wanting to do that.
Mm.
But at the same point, it's a little bit creepy as well because it's like the stranger's just asked this little girl to, "Can I hold your hand?" And it's like, but it does work. It just feels it makes you feel a little bit awkward with it. Um,
Yeah. It's a difficult line to walk because I think the mother-daughter subplot is pretty cliche. Again, I understand why it's there. And they've got an amazing actress in playing the mum. They've got Vicky McClure playing the mum, who in some of the behind the scenes like interviews and stuff, Jason Statham's like, "Oh, it's so good we've got her in the role." And well, she's in it for like 3 scenes. It's pointless.
yeah,
I know her from like This Is England, but I know she's gone on to be in Line of Duty and lots of other things. She's like a really like premier British actress nowadays. So thankless role for her. It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think that storyline is pretty cliche, but I also
mhm,
think the other subplot storyline with Christina the nun, in my opinion, does not work at all. I don't care. I'm not invested. I don't see the connection between the two of them. I don't think there's any chemistry between the actors either. I almost kind of would have preferred the cliched storyline because I think the effort to force an original subplot in with this nun for me doesn't work at all. I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, I do like Chrissy. I think that because she works at the soup kitchen, they kind of and she's aware of the homeless. That's kind of the tie-in, so he can use her to be able to talk to the police to be able to try give the information and get justice for Isabel. It's just it is a strange one because like again you kind of have to do a bit of hand waving in this because there's a bit when he's about to leave the flat and the phone goes and he says, "Oh, I'm away until the 1st of October,"
Mm,
and then she goes for the ballet on the 1st of October, and it's like, "Oh, right, come on." could really not fit this any better, really. It again, this is where I think with the film, it's like bullet points. We've got to hit these certain things. The rest of it is good, but certain bits feel a bit forced. And there is a slight attraction between Christine and Joey, but it felt a bit more like a kind of a brother and sister kind of thing, more than all else, to the point where,
Well, they do things that brothers and sisters should not do,
well, yeah, I mean,
and they do things that nuns should not do.
again, yeah, which I mean, she just kind of tried to avoid that, but then she kind of jumps straight into it. Right at the end, she decides this is
Well, they
a
go on a couple of dates together. I'm not sure that's like proper like dates.
well. I mean, the bit with the picture where they're in the museum,
Hmm. The
that's
gallery,
kind
yeah.
of yeah, in the gallery, they're kind of trying to talk and try. I
But she's dressed up in the little slinky red dress he buys her. I mean,
yeah, but again, she said that's the only kind of clothes she's got other than
oh,
coming in
yeah.
there in the habit and that. So
She
it's an
couldn't have
awkward one.
stopped by Topshop on the way, could she? No.
Well, she spent all the money on the box
Oh, that's true on the ballet, yeah.
the ballet.
No, I mean, I'm obviously
So
being a bit facetious about it. It's just, for me, it just felt, I don't know what that part of the plot was trying to do. And it's like an hour in the middle of the movie that just goes on for way too long. Way too long.
I think again, it's to show that he wants he wants to do more than just kiss her, and she gets
But he
drunk.
wants to
Uh,
corrupt her away from her beliefs and run away with her. Is that a good guy thing
yeah, well, that's a bit after he'd kissed her, but
to
like when he said though, well, he'd done more than kiss her at that point. Um, he did say that he wanted to kiss her when she asked him, and
Mm.
she's like, "Why?" He says, "Because it's obvious." He obviously he wanted to do more, but he does have that line of "Sister, I'm Catholic." He there is still a line there that he tries
Mm.
to kind of if she hadn't been drunk, then I think it would have gone further. But because she was drunk, it's that kind of that code that he seems to have
Mm.
of look, I am a bad person, but I have rules, I have beliefs that I can't go past.
No,
So
I agree
again,
with that. He's respectful. He doesn't force
mhm.
himself on her. It's all by consent for both of them. There's never any kind of strangeness or no, I agree with all of that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So again, I think it is just that thing of kind of it's probably she's like the angel on his shoulder to a certain degree, no, no pun intended there with it, but she is there kind of to try to keep him as honest as possible, knowing that he is doing bad things. And she keeps pointing out to him, I know what you do. I know you do these bad things. And he's like, yeah, but it's for the greater good.
Yeah, but
And,
and I think that could have worked as a relationship. I just don't think it needs to become a relationship. I think if she'd
mhm,
been like a moral center of the movie that he kept going back to confess, if you like, and to kind of get her okay for now, but as long as there's an end goal where we do the right thing, then I don't think the romance worked at all.
I will agree because I think it would have worked quite well with Statham's character, and he would have been quite happy with that. To be fair, it's like that she was attracted to you know the the rugged side of him,
Mm,
and that and it was kind of more on her side that
mm.
she was kind of like, well, I want to do this, I want to explore this, and that. So it was more on her part. Whereas I think Joey would have been quite happy just to have come to her and asked her for help and try to. I don't think he was trying to corrupt her because again, he was being quite respectful. Obviously, when he got offered it, you know,
Yeah, I don't know. I think he definitely wanted a relationship out of it, didn't he? And she's kind of says it's like a holiday for me, didn't she? A holiday from my kind of drudgery of nunnery because she's about to go off. She books to go into Africa, doesn't she?
yeah,
Going to go to the ballet on the 1st of October. And then the next day, she's off to Africa to kind of take up the mission again. And so she sort of sees Stath's Joey as like a little holiday
A
from,
fling.
yeah, I suppose, yeah, like a summer holiday fling. Absolutely, yeah. But he definitely has overtures of wanting to
I
support her.
think,
He's definitely interested in her.
yeah, I think once it goes past that kiss and once it goes, there's a bit more. He has, I think, thought of she, she's she's good for me because although he's still being quite violent and doing the things that he's
Mm.
doing whilst he's sober, at the same point, maybe he thought she could have probably kept him in check
Hmm.
without having to be drunk or drugged or things like that. Because
Mm.
that's I think that's the sad part near the end where he has to kind of go back to being that person again. From where he was.
Mm. Yeah, he makes that conscious
But
choice to do that, doesn't he? Yeah.
yeah, which I mean, she just says to him, "Come with me," and that. So I suppose he could have gone to Africa. I mean, I don't know if we could have had Father Joey. I'm not sure if that would have, if he'd have been able to do that. But
Mm.
it, it's an awkward mishmash at times. But I think they kind of again they use it to kind of prolong this, to move the plot forward. You know,
Mm.
but when we need to have a bit more information, we'll go back there because she hears things, and when we need the action, we'll go back here and that.
Yeah, it's a trope of Stephen Knight's writing, I think, that he likes to pair up these kind of odd couples, but these male and female couples. So we've got like his most famous written work probably is Eastern Promises, the Viggo Mortensen and Naomi Watts movie, when Viggo Mortensen's the Russian mobster and Naomi Watts is a nurse. Don't know if you've seen that one.
I'm not sure.
And I won't say anything else just in case you haven't. I don't want to ruin the film for you. But there's also like Dirty Pretty Things, which is Chiwetel Ejiofor. Sorry if I've butchered his name, and Audrey Tattoo. So he likes
Yeah,
to do these kind of like a man and a woman from different worlds, and they meet in this kind of situation, and then they have to decide. So it's definitely a trope of his writing that he keeps coming back to time and time again.
yeah. I suppose it's like that yin and yang. Just try and match them together and to show that this can work. You can be completely two opposite people and still find a balance between each other.
Hmm.
Which, yeah, but it's interesting because the movie doesn't end in all the usual kind of tropes of
Hmm.
you get the girl and we go off into the sunset and that it just kind of end in a more harsh reality of
Hmm.
and that you still feel good with the outcome of a lot of things, but there's also that kind of reality of, well, this guy's still just going to disappear off into the cracks again
Yeah, it's
because
interesting. Yeah.
society can't. There isn't a place for him in society to a certain
Hmm.
degree,
Because he's
and
on the run, isn't he? Because he's isn't he wanted for military tribunal?
yeah, he I think in the film he says it that his squad got taken out, 5 guys got taken out, so he took 5 guys out.
He did like revenge
Um,
killings, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah, which that shows at the start with a bit of the hummingbird with the drones watching, and as the film goes on, you piece it together a bit better. But at the start, it's like someone shoot, a white man shooting in the street. He revenge and he goes against orders to
Hmm.
take out revenge, and then he goes on the run. I think they can't marshal him. At some point, he must have escaped and ran, and then he's a person of interest that they are trying to hunt him down, and that which again the kind of the job that he goes into, working for, you know, Mr. Choi, but it's Benedict Wong. I thought,
Hmm.
oh, as soon as he came out, I thought, oh, it's Wong. But unfortunately, that's kind of the life that
Hmm.
his skills are best
Hmm.
suited for, and that. Um,
But his motive, the things he, as you said before, though, the things he does are on the wrong side of the line, working for these people and things he does, particularly the human trafficking scene, which, yeah, again, didn't really feel like it fit in this movie. I agree with you. It's quite a powerful scene, but I think
mhm,
if he is meant to be on a moral crusade to find himself, I think he has to say no to that job, right? But yeah, he's on the wrong side of the line, but everything he's doing it for is to move back towards the light, isn't it? So the money he's saving up for, like we say, his ex and his daughter, he ends up giving them all the money by the end, doesn't he? He's trying to
Mhm.
track down the there's a guy, so that Isabel ends up being forced into prostitution, doesn't she?
Yeah,
And there's a guy who's renowned in London for beating up and actually with Isabel ending up killing her. So he's trying to track him down, and he's using the connections through the triads to do that. He's got this relationship with the nun, and obviously, of course, he's not forcing himself on her, and he lets her go. And he turns in, as you said, the triad um, mob bosses in the end for the human trafficking and stuff. So everything is moving towards the light, isn't it? Despite what he's doing on a day-to-day basis being in the dark.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. The way for him to operate and to be able to get the results that he needs to do, he does have to operate in the dark, like you say. He does have to use what I mean. He does say it's like, I mean, the description that he gives, it's white guy in his 30s, scab up his eye. It is a bit of a vague thing. Obviously, as soon as he mentions it to the Mrs. It's not Mrs. Choi. I don't know but
Yeah,
Mr. Choi
yeah, I think yeah,
is it Mrs. Choi?
I think so. Yeah, it's his
She's
mum,
like,
isn't it?
yeah, oh yeah, so yeah, she's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. It's like, well, okay, but I think that's a bit where they're kind of showing that they're trying to point out that maybe because she was just a prostitute who just got killed and left in the ditch, the police are like, well,
Hmm?
no one's going to miss it, kind of thing. That's kind of what they're trying to portray. So he then thinks the only way to get justice for her is to do it his way,
Hmm. What a
because
way
no
he
one
does it.
else. Well, yeah, I mean, uh, as I said, I'd forgotten how gruesome certain parts of the film was. Um, when the taxman comes back to sit with his thug friend,
Hmm.
um, the second time around, it's like, oh, you guys don't remember me, and then
Yeah, because he's all cleaned up at this point, and he's wearing dangerous
yeah,
clothes, and yeah.
and he just batters him, and then he breaks that guy's arm,
Hmm.
and then to kind of try and get some more information out, he then stands on it to cause him a bit more pain, and then he picks the guy up and just puts him in the trash can,
Hmm.
and that. But
Which is a little
again,
bit of a kind of foreshadowing for what happens later with what he does
yeah,
with the prostitute beater. I mean, to be
mhm,
fair, you know, I've no compunction. I've got no complaints with what he does at the end of the movie. The guy thoroughly deserves it.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's not like it's a one-time thing because we see it again
Mm,
happen further
mm,
down the
mm,
line with another girl, and obviously the taxman does say he's well known for doing this,
mm,
you know. So yeah, he got what's coming to him
mm.
and that.
Yeah, Joey gets himself into a exclusive cocktail party, doesn't he? At the top of a London high rise.
Yeah, which again, a bit of hand waving out. He just because he's got a suit, he managed to kind of just walk in there, didn't he? Kind of thing. But it 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 kind of. I mean, when he goes up to talk to him and that, he's like, "Oh, have you had a good bonus?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." So then he puts the guy at ease a little bit so that
Hmm.
he can then. But I mean, that's over very quickly. There's no kind of flashy
No, it's
fight or
true.
anything like that. It's
But I
just a
think
case
that's
of
there wouldn't be with it because this guy is weak, isn't he? Like his only
yeah,
power he has is
yeah.
surprising women when they don't expect it.
Which in one sense, I would have possibly liked to see Jason Statham levering and that, and just say, you think it's nice to be on the receiving end. You do this to the women, I'm going to do this to you. But instead, he does that line of, I'm from down there
Mm.
where you're going, and then just tips him over
Literally in front of
and
a
that.
whole like party of people,
Yeah.
drops him off the rooftop. Yeah, it's
And
brutal.
that. And it is a case of, at that point, he'd done what he needed to do.
Mhm.
And he'd given the money to his ex-wife and his daughter.
Mhm.
He'd paid Damien
Well,
back.
this is October the 1st, isn't it? At this point,
Yeah.
yeah.
the only thing that he didn't manage to do was get to the ballet to sit it and watch it with Christine.
Hmm.
But yeah, he ticked everything off, and then obviously we see him outside I think it's the train station or outside the ballet.
Covent Garden, I think he is. Yeah, near
Yeah,
the ballet. Yeah.
and it's a case of he's drunk again,
Mm.
and that.
I think not
Um,
going to the ballet was a conscious choice, though, wasn't it? That was where everything had been lined up, and then this is the path, isn't it? So, like you say, the money had been paid back to Damon. He'd sort of left his apartment now. He made sure his wife and his daughter were settled for life. The triad gang had been turned in. So now it was like, do I go to the ballet and do I go off with Christina, or do I kill this guy in retribution and go back to that life that I used to have? And
yeah,
he makes that choice, doesn't he, to go down that path.
which I think he was kind of the ballet side was like a bit of a pipe dream. And I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
the point when she kind of says to him, I'll see you tonight. There's that look in his eyes of that
Yeah.
was never going to be. I was never going to be that person. I have to, I have to finish my mission. I have to kind of do this. Otherwise, what was it all for? And that, he's grown up. He's been on them streets with Isabel, so they've obviously. I mean, she does say, they want together. They just shared body to keep each other warm,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But again, that small community, everyone knew Joey or Crazy Joey. You
Mm.
know, it it, it was quite a tight knit community, and that.
I imagine she
So
felt
yeah,
safe with him.
well, yeah,
Mm.
I mean, you probably would. I'd quite happily put up with Jason Statham. To be
Mm.
fair, I think I'd feel safe.
Mm.
But
He can be the big spoon. It's fine.
yeah, it I think it is that thing that they're all there to look out, and like you said, the police aren't going to do anything because if he doesn't look out for them, who else is going to do that? It's same when he says to the two thugs, you know, don't come back down here again, and he turns to the rest of them and says, if anything happens, you come and tell Crazy Joey, and
Mm.
he'll come and sort it. You know, he's got himself into that bit where he's able to kind of take control and look after people.
Mm. And it ends in kind of a full circle, doesn't it? So as you said, he's drunk again. He's wandering off down the road. We see it from almost like a drone's perspective, don't we? The ending for
Mhm.
me was almost a little bit kind of like a Bourne movie. I wonder if they thought that if this character catches fire, we could have kind of, Hummingbird
Ooh.
supremacy. Yeah, where,
Yeah.
like he
Hummingbird flaps again.
he's drunk at the start, but then he puts aside that in order to because he gets him or like like a kung fu type thing where like he goes from
Yeah.
town to town or place to place and he puts aside the drink just long enough to solve a problem and then he picks it up again.
So Jason Statham, the lowest hobo.
Yeah, yeah, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm glad they didn't. So
Well, I don't think they're
I
much choice because it like
well,
flopped, but
yeah, it's one of those where it's a good there's it's a good pick because it's got the action that you want in there, but
Mhm.
I think it's got quite a compelling story and quite a lot of things that they do try to deal with and try to expose and make people a bit more aware instead of it just being, as I say, we could have just had this guy who came away from the war who just decides to go around and kick ass,
Mm.
and that it's less compelling. You wouldn't feel the same
Mm.
as what I did anyway when I kind of came out from it.
No, I agree with you, and I think I think I just wish the Christina subplot wasn't there. I think I probably would have been happier watching a whole movie of him. You said he's in it 90% of the time. I would have probably been happy watching 100% of the time the Stath as Joey dealing with this situation, as it all still is in the movie. Everything can pretty much stay the same. I
Mhm.
just that part for me, and it's such a significant part of the runtime. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work for me.
No, which I mean, it's not for everyone. I think it is. It's just trying to tie it in and then add a bit of romance there
Hmm.
to kind of, you know, again show a human side to him. and that that it does care. It's not just a case, but again, it's trying to know how to tie that in, how to kind of be able to get the information that he needs and also the information he wants to give out to
Mm.
try. So
I
she's
like what you said of this idea of her being almost like a sister character and being the angel on his shoulder. I think that would have been a better angle to take.
yeah.
I think you've
I,
written a better movie in your head there than the one
yeah,
we watched.
I would have been quite happy if it had just even if we just still had that point with the gallery where she's a bit drunk and they do have that kiss. If that was it, nothing else.
Mm.
Not have that because it just come a bit out of the blue that she says when she says to him, "I want to end my wicked time with you," and that, and it's like I get it, and it is a bit telegraphed. This is you can kind of feel this is coming, but maybe if they kind of held back on that bit and just gone right, I'm gonna go away, Joey, and that you're welcome to come with me, but
Yeah, there's
this is
important
kind
work
of
to be
where
done. You could come and
yeah,
this would be your, want of a better
this could
word,
be your calling.
redemption.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's that thing of where just taking 5 minutes out of the movie would have been fine, but there again, I think they want to do that for the kind of the amusing point where Damien comes back a bit early and they're like, "Oh, quick, get your shoes, quick, get out,"
Yeah, yeah.
just to kind of. But again, that didn't need to be there.
No.
It could have quite easily just left a note on the top. That's it. Damien could have come back in and thought, "Who's been in my fucking flat?" Kind of,
Mm.
Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Because talking
But
about with you, like I hadn't thought of it until we're having this conversation, but it has that kind of almost like Rambo-esque nature to it as well, doesn't it? Us saying like jokingly he could be like the little saber and he goes off on his next adventure, but that's kind of what the Rambo movies became was, he was this guy and then every now and then he got called in to do something. And then when you get the much later ones, when you get Rambo, then John Rambo, when you find him in Rambo, he's like off in a like war torn somewhere, isn't he? And he's a guide. He's used as a guide for taking people down
yeah,
the river to. I can't remember that movie very well. I'm paraphrasing bad about what
is
happens in
that
the film, but
the one that was a couple of years ago? The
that was John Rambo, wasn't it? That was the last one where he
yeah.
goes to Mexico, doesn't he, to take on the
Oh,
cartel.
that one. Yeah,
The one before that, when he's like in some South American country and he helps, like I think, a group of
yeah. Because the idea is
peacekeepers go down the river to help some people out.
it was meant to be just the guide, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Whereas it turns into John Rambo.
yeah. So
And that
like what you're saying there, that could have been a pitch for this, couldn't it? Like he goes with Christina off to wherever she's going, and he becomes like the muscle, for want of a better word, but without it
mhm.
obviously being that. Like he's there in a different capacity, but with that kind of plutonic love.
that could have, if they did want to do a
Yeah.
number two, that could have fitted. We do the same kind of thing, but in Africa,
Hmm.
where there's some bad people out there. He
Sure.
goes and has to deal with them, and that so could have worked. Just it's it's one of those things. You watch a film and you start thinking, "Well, I could have written this better." Now I know I couldn't, but
Well, I disagree with
it,
you. From what you said tonight, you absolutely could.
in my head, there's certain things I think would have worked better.
Mhm.
Again, it could be one of those things that we see quite often now. Films go for screenings before, and they show two different kind of endings or two different parts, and they go on majority. Maybe there was a different take to this.
Mm.
I'm not sure we're going to be quite asking for the Stephen Knight director's cut, of this, but maybe he did write something a bit different to it, where he does go off into the sunset with Christine.
Mm. Have you watched Safe recently?
No, I was going to watch it because after watching this the other day, I thought I could have watched it last night, but then I thought I don't want it to cloud
Of course. Yeah,
too
absolutely.
much. But I do remember that because that's obviously you did just do the review
Mm.
a few weeks ago, but I do remember the little girl. I think you did kind of say Mercury Rising. It's very similar
Mm.
to
Hmm.
that more than
Hmm.
anything else. Um, it's a weird one when once you started doing this, you're thinking, oh yeah, I like Jason Statham. and then you start realizing how many films you have actually watched of him. It's like, oh shit! It's same as another one that you mentioned was the action heroes.
Oh, the Expendables.
No, yeah, the guy who is in is it Taxman?
Oh, Scott Adkins.
Scott Atkins, yeah. It, again, that's another one of those. I think, oh yeah, I think I've seen a few of his films. I've seen a lot of his films, and you just don't realize how many that you've actually seen. Um, but you kind of know what you're getting, and that,
Mm.
you know, it's unfortunate. I think Scott Atkins, he seems quite happy in what he's doing, but I think he could be a lot bigger
Mm.
if he was given the potential.
Oh,
And that
100%.
I'm surprised he's not been in any of the expendable films, has he?
He was in Expendables 2 as Jean-Claude Van
Oh,
Damme's
yeah,
like
he had a fight
henchman.
with
Yeah. With
yes,
Stath.
yeah. Oh, he fights with Stath, yeah, yeah, because Stallone fights Van Damme.
Van Damme, yeah. Which to be
Yeah.
fair, I remember in a much earlier episode, I'd totally forgotten about Scott Adkins being in the Expendables, and somebody contacted me once I'd done an episode saying, like, "Oh, I really wish Scott Adkins and the Stath had been in a movie together." Here I am doing a Stath podcast, and the next thing of course, somebody was like, "Well, I think you'll find," and they were
Yeah,
right to tell me, "I think you'll find," because they were absolutely right, and I should have remembered that.
but he's one of those actors that I think they could do more with him.
Mm.
Like, I mean, we've had him in MCU. He seems to quite like
Well,
playing
he's
these
been in two Marvel movies
henchmen.
actually. He was Weapon 11 in
Oh, yes, he was.
Wolverine
He did
Origins.
the
Not that
body
I'm
of,
sure he's singing about that, but
yeah. I don't know why Ryan Reynolds didn't do that because I'm sure he'd have been in shape for it still.
mm,
But yeah, he's a non-speaking part, I guess that. But yeah, I, it's one of those things. You see him in the film. Sometimes you think a bit of a waste. You could have probably done more with him because
mm,
he's you know he's very skillful in what he does. I mean, yeah, is it Avengement when he goes in
mm.
prison? That's a really good film. Again, it shows a lot of what he can do. Um, so yeah, he feels like a lesser Jason Statham,
Mhm.
but he seems to be quite happy being that.
I think he
You
is, and
know,
much like I think the Stath is happy being who he is as well. Now, I'll be interested if you do watch Safe. Let me know because I'll be interested. I just wonder if this has been a really interesting passage for me, where most of the films have been pretty middling for the
hmm
last, I'd say, 6 to 10 episodes I've recorded. All the Stath films have been like, yeah, they're good, but nothing's blown me out the water, and nothing's been shit. But Safe
yeah,
came along, and in my head, I was like, "Oh, it's in this run. It's another one where, like, yeah, it's all right." And I really enjoyed it, much more than I thought I would. And because there are quite a few similarities between that and this in terms of where we find the character at the start of the movie, and somebody helps them to find their way back on the right path, and there are definite parallels. It's
yeah.
inescapable between the two films. I just wonder if watching Say So Close to watching this affected my enjoyment. Now you're doing it the other way around, so
hmm
I'll be fascinated. Let me know when you watch it to see if
Yeah, I
how
think
you feel about the two compared to one another.
it's one of those where he's having to look after someone, and you're having to he has to care, so he has to show that emotion. Um, I- it does seem a bit weird when he does the smile and that when she takes a photo of him, you do kind of think, well,
Mm,
that looks a little bit awkward. I'm more used to seeing him being
hmm
quite stone faced. But again, it shows that human side of him that you don't always see.
mm.
I think I don't know how when's Homefront? Is that
Next,
is that next?
yeah.
All right, in which case, have you already watched that one?
I haven't, no, because much as you just talked about, like you weren't going to watch Safe, I'm a real stickler. I like to watch and record and then watch and like I try not to.
Yeah.
I've seen it the once, yeah, when it came out.
Right, okay. Because again, that kind of has that has similarities to Save,
Mm,
I'd
hmm
say. So I suppose he did do a few in a row where he's like a carer. He's kind of the person who people depend on.
mm,
And I think when you put him in roles like that, where he has to, he gets to show off his muscles and his what he can do, but he gets to show the nicer, calmer side of him, the
Mm.
caring side of him. I think he fits into that role a lot better than just being, a thug,
Yeah,
and that sometimes you get.
and I think that lends itself to because that's who he is, right? He has this hard man exterior. He has this, this stereotypically kind of tough look. He's a stereotypically tough looking guy. But when you see him in interviews, when you hear him talk, he's very clearly a sensitive, thoughtful
Yeah,
person. So it's not a surprise that he's able to channel into that and tap into that in his performances.
yeah. I mean, lots of people will know him for the ass kicking that he does, and probably forget that he was a diver,
Mm.
he was a dancer in
Oh
the
yes.
Eraser film, not Erasure video,
Mhm.
and there is that side of him, and that I think as he's getting on a little bit more now, maybe he'll start kind of angling to that and having a bit more of an acting role than just an action role, which
Mhm.
I think he can do really well. I
Mm.
think, yeah, he does. Oh, yeah, I'm the Steve. He does do that rough kind of voice, but it does give you that feel of ease. You do
Mm.
feel kind of safe around him, not just because of the fact that he's going to kick the crap out of everybody, but he has that kind of a fatherly figure that
Mhm.
you think if you saw him, you would go to him and ask him for help, as opposed to feeling threatened by him.
Mm. No, definitely. I agree with that. What do you think is
Yeah.
the better title in this movie then? Do you think Hummingbird or Redemption works best?
It's awkward because the hummingbird works, but one because of the drone at the start. The drone's the reason that
Mm.
they kind of can't marshal him and they see all this, and they do kind of put in a couple of times the hummingbirds that he keeps seeing
Get to see some
and
shitty
that.
CGI hummingbirds, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, again, it doesn't feel that it fits in the film so much, and that. But I think if we didn't see the drone
Yeah.
and we didn't have them, I would kind of think, yeah, Wimber just doesn't work.
Hmm.
Redemption is a better because there is a redemption arc to his story. So yes, that does kind of work, but I don't know. We had this with the Tom Cruise film where it was Live Die Repeat, and then was it Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Live,
like,
die,
oh,
repeat.
just pick one, just
Yeah.
pick one, and just have the same. If you're gonna put, pick a title, stick with it.
Mm.
Don't kind of, because you do have it's like if you search, this is on Disney,
Hmm.
and I typed in Hummingbird, but it comes up as it's Redemption.
Mm.
It's like, well, hang on a minute, why can't you just have the same name? It's just silly, and that you did say there's a few different
Yeah, I'll offer you another
titles.
couple of different ones. But whilst you're talking, I thought it'd be. I looked up like the symbolism of hummingbirds. I wondered if it was other than being the name for a drone, but so resilience, recovery in Native American culture, it's healing for suffering, signals good luck to hunters and travelers. So I think probably Stephen Knight had a little Google just like I just did as well. So I can see why if they want you to do that extra little bit of research that they might have chosen that title. But I think it doesn't quite translate into the story we're getting, and Redemption just
Yeah,
feels way too generic to me.
yeah. Maybe we were trying to be clever, and that's
Mm,
what I thought. I mean, you probably wouldn't. Were you aware that the drone was called the Hummingbird drone?
no.
So again, that would kind of pass over people. They
Hmm.
they
Yeah,
may
yeah.
not have.
I read it in the trivia after watching, or doing my research for tonight, but I didn't know during or before watching the film. No.
So then because it's like the hummingbirds kind of appear when they're kind of watching him and looking. We only have it a
Yeah.
couple of times in the film, which is what the drone does. It watches and sees what it does. So, but again, if you don't have that context, you're
Hmm.
thinking, why is there some dodgy CGI hummingbirds, bees, what are they? Some weird little birds kind of flying around. It, I think he was trying to be more clever
Mhm.
and that, which maybe it's one of those things that if you know what it is, you're in there and you go, that's clever, that
Mm.
is. I like what
Mm.
you've done there. Otherwise, when people go, why hummingbird? What is he going to beat his wings 1,000 times a second? It's a weird one. But yeah, you're right as well. Redemption is a kind of it's a generic, oh look, it's that redemption story. So, I I'd be interested in, I mean, you're gonna tell me some different ones anyway, but I wonder what he went with first.
Mm.
And
Well,
that
yeah. Well, I mean, Stephen Knight is obviously British, and Statham is British. I'm guessing it's mostly a British production. So I'm guessing Hummingbird is the title, I think, and then they decided to change it for the American territories.
mm,
Would be my best guess.
yeah, maybe, yeah, it's just he should have just stuck with just one and just gone with it. And
Mm.
that, but yeah,
Both work better, however, than the title in France, which was Crazy Joe,
right,
which
okay.
I know they call him that in the movie, but does not like
It's not gonna sell it.
and doesn't sum up his character in any way whatsoever. I know that's like his kind of street name, but he is not crazy.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
he uses that as like a bit of cachet, doesn't he, to scare people. But
yeah,
I don't know, it's not I don't
but
think it fits
it
personally.
doesn't live by that really.
No.
It's only for a small point when he kind of talks to the other guys in the alley, like tell them crazy. They do know him as Crazy Joey down at the soup kitchen, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's a bit of a throwaway line.
Mm.
So yeah, no, that don't work.
The German title though, I quite like. So it is called Redemption, but then it has like a subtitle. Now, I'm not a German speaker, but it's Stunde. It's not. It's however you would say that properly in German. But I looked it up, and that's Hour of Retribution, which I think is a bit nicer.
Yeah, yeah, that could have worked. Or even if it had been Hummingbird and then have that
Hmm.
little bit of a title as well.
Even just
'Cause,
Retribution, to be
yeah,
fair, it's better than Redemption.
yeah, yeah, because
It's a bit less of a common word and requires you to think a bit more in depth about what that word means.
yeah, I think that would have worked because again, redemption is just it seems a bit of a broad. Lots of there's games and there's other things out there. Whereas retribution, yeah, I think that would that'd be possible. Again, that would have worked better than if you're not aware of what the hummingbird is.
Yeah, and I think is more of his driving force. His driving force in the movie is to get retribution for Isabel,
Yeah, and
not
for everyone
asking for.
else who's
Yeah, he's not asking for redemption. He doesn't want to be forgiven.
no, no. Is there an Italian one?
No, no. I mean, sure
No.
there is. They're the two that I've got that I thought were interesting
Right.
to discuss.
But no, I mean it's I think it is one of his better films,
Hmm.
and that from the earlier days anyway. I think it does kind of hark back to that kind of Snatch. In Snatch, he isn't kind of the muscle and
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
he's not that side, but he acts his chops off. I think he doesn't do a bad job in here, going from this kind of weak, drunk,
Hmm.
shriveled shell of a person to being peak, performance to then seeing him going back to where he was at the start
Hmm.
and that. So yeah, I think it shows several kind of layers to him
Hmm.
and that throughout the film.
No, I can't disagree with you. I think it's a better performance than it. I think it's a better performance in a lesser film for me.
Mhm.
But I think it's really important in terms of his growth and the fact that he's taking on these dramatic roles and is totally selling it now. And this probably does a better job of marrying up what he's trying to do in terms of the dramatic with the action that we kind of want to see him in. So I think, a couple of times recently when I did Parker with Tony and when I did Blitz with Scott, I think they were other films which he's trying to do something a bit different, but the genre blending, the like make it so it fits the actor Stath didn't quite work as
Yeah,
well. I think that does work better here, to be fair.
yeah. Because I mean, I'm just looking now. Yeah, because he's got save Parker. That's a story that's kind of been done before anyway.
Hmm.
Um, are you doing Fast and Furious 6 or
No, because he's uncredited in
no?
that one, so
Right.
I'm skipping it.
So you then do Homefront, and then you've got Wildcard, Expendables 3 and Wildcard. Again,
Mm.
it it's another one where it's showing that he's not just an action star to a certain degree. He
Hmm.
can do that, but he's not then just the action person. As in, then you get to Spy, which is gonna. I can't
Hmm.
wait for that one. That's gonna be
I,
a lot of fun.
I think there's just, I think unfortunately there were a couple of times, I think you could probably put Blitz in this. You could put Blitz, this movie here, I think I'd probably jump to, and then you'd put Wildcard
Hmm.
as the three where he really is trying something a bit different, where the action is
Yeah,
really quite toned down, quite pared down. When it does happen, it's very skillful, but it's quick and it's brief, and it's more drama than it is action. And unfortunately, all of those films didn't do very well box office wise. So he kind of then moved back into the like, well, this is what you want from me. So this is what I'll keep giving you, which I say unfortunately because perhaps he wanted to do a bit more. But I mean, we get a lot of good movies from that point forwards.
yeah. I think. I mean, it's gonna be a while, but before you get to it, but Wrath of Man,
Mm,
with that one, he is very much action starred, but he acts his socks up in that.
yeah,
Again,
great
it
film.
is a very much kind of we following him, and although without spoiling it too much, you can kind of predict what's going to happen.
Hmm.
It's still clever how they kind of get to it all, and you know, one of those where I sat there watching. I wonder, nah, they wouldn't do that, and then it's like, oh yeah, they have done that. Um, it it, it seems to try have that line between a wild card
Hmm.
to a kind of a Fast and Furious kind of something in between where you've got your high action and your high, that pumping adrenaline that people want,
Hmm.
but also a decent story there as well. And again, it's another one of those where when he cares about someone and he's there for someone else and not for himself, I think he has a better performance.
Mm,
And that because he's that kind of he's that protector. That's what you kind of feel from him.
mm. No, I agree. I like that. And I will say you convinced me more this time.
The
I'll give you that.
13, yeah.
I'm afraid 13, you did a great job. I think you spoke it up wonderfully, but I just didn't like that film. Whereas I came to this knowing, there were parts of it I liked, and I think the parts that you focused on and that you've brought insight to has really elevated it, those moments, those parts of the film for me through our discussion.
Yeah, I mean, 13. I mean, to be fair, Statham's not in it much,
No, not
really.
compared to this, definitely.
They could have quite easily put anyone else in there, and you know, it wouldn't have changed the film. Um, the film was very much a kind of it's just a bit of an inner jar, and all this action kind of happens. Well, kind of action. Um, I did like the story.
Hmm?
I do appreciate it's not a great film, but I kind of liked what they was trying to do with
Hmm.
it. Um, maybe I mean I did debate about going to watch the original, the French
Hmm.
one, I think it
Hmm.
was, um, and that, but I then kind of thought I'm not sure whether I can probably sit through kind of watching the same film and then be kind of. I mean, it's probably something I will go back and watch at some point, but it's like we were saying before, recording. Trying to fit in to watch everything that we're meant to be watching is just, sometimes you have them nights where you just waste an hour or two doing nothing and realizing you could have been watching something. It's like,
yeah.
and that. So
That episode hasn't got watched. That half of a movie hasn't got watched. Absolutely, yeah.
yeah. Or I have a habit of watching something and falling asleep halfway through and then waking up and thinking, what's going on?
I'm
At
going to
that
read a
age of
couple.
my life.
Yeah, well, aren't we all? I'm going to read a couple of letterbox and then I'll get your final word.
Yep.
Okay. Kay Mockler says there's two good things about Hummingbird, Jason Statham and one really awesome fight scene. Other than that, everything else is pretty much just a dull cliche. Not a fan. But I like to start there and I'll build up to, a good finish at the end. I know you don't agree.
No.
Lou Shoemaker says Hummingbird, aka Redemption, is Statham's most dramatic lead role by a wide margin, but it is constantly trying to break out into a standard Statham actioner and doesn't really succeed in either genre. I think Jason Statham could have done decent work in the lead role with a better script and different director. This movie was the baby of Stephen Knight, but he doesn't really dig too deep into the material as is. He's very at home in the scenes where he's working as a gangster or in the flashbacks to his time as a soldier, but neither he nor anyone else know what to do when he's just supposed to be mopey. He also kills in the comedic scenes, but these mostly come in the worst subplot of the movie, so not much to recommend there either. The last scene on the roof kicks ass, though. 5 stars for that scene.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. I think in a slightly better written script, it could have been so much better. There's again, I don't think I could write a film. These guys are professionals at they do it. Yes, we can sit here and kind of push out a better ending and what we think would have worked. But I do feel that it did have certain tropes, like we've said in it, and it's like I say that then bullet points as if we have to fit these things in, and they feel a little bit crowbarred in there. And at times bits of it just feels a bit wasted or a bit kind of would have been better just being cut out and just make it like an hour and a half film instead of an hour and 40 minutes film.
All right. Dem Dyke says Jason Statham in one of his serious roles, he plays an alcoholic war veteran on the run from the authorities after going AWOL. Hummingbird isn't the easiest of watches. It's extremely gritty, and some of the depictions of London's seedy underground is quite harrowing. On the whole, though, it's a nice change of pace for Statham, as he gives a strong performance in a movie, which is a far cry from his usual Fast and Furious transporter type roles. So really positive on the movie there. And then last but not least, James says, tonally, this is an absolute disaster. But ultimately, it worked for me because it acknowledges its own hypocrisy as an action social drama. Basically, the interesting parts of The Equalizer, PTSD-afflicted super soldier plays it being normal, but with a more downbeat angle. Statham is no Denzel, but this is easily the best straight acting role I've seen him in, to the point that I almost resented the obligatory fisticuffs. So I started low and I built up to high.
I could quite, I mean, I don't think they would ever probably do this, but if Statham was to come in and take over doing the Equalizer, I could see him doing that role, and that he's that kind of action star that it would fit to, what Denzel does in the Equalizer films. Jason Statham could quite easily step into that, and I mean, again, I really enjoy them films. It's that action kind of pace of using what's around him, using his abilities, and that. I think it's a role that Jason Statham could really do, and that it would be ideal for him to a certain degree, and still. I mean, Denzel's Denzel, I mean, you can't say anything really bad about him, and that there's been some fantastic films. Such a brilliant actor, and he gets to kind of have fun doing them films, acting a bit, but I mean, it's not. He's never going to win an Oscar for it.
He's not pushing him, yeah.
No, but he's menacing enough to kind of think this is a normal guy, And I think, yeah, Statham could probably jump into one of those, you know. I know a few years ago they tried to redo the Bourne films, didn't they? And they had
Jeremy Renner. Yeah.
Jeremy Renner do it, and that, if they were to kind of bring the Equalizer back and have Statham come in there, that would be, again, I think that'd work really well. But it's one of those films that could have been that, but there's just something a little bit missing.
Mm. Yeah. So with that in mind, where would you place this in his filmography? Is it classic, worth catching, or for completist only?
I At the start, I wouldn't say it's a classic because I do think it does an awful lot, and I do like a lot of the things that they cover. But again, there's just a few points in the film that just don't hit, and they feel a bit forced. So it's definitely a worth catching, bordering onto a classic. I think, yeah, I don't think it's quite there. I don't think it's quite a classic, but it's just that like percentage off. So yeah, definitely worth catching. If you
Totally
haven't
fair.
seen it, we spoil it for you, like, but still go watch it. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, fair. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have you got any other appearances coming up? What's going on in the
Uh,
Star Wars universe for you at the moment?
oh yes, yeah, we I think it come out a couple of weeks ago. We did the Clone Wars movie,
Hmm.
um, and we are covering season 1 of the Clone Wars at some point in January. I'm not sure
Okay.
when. We haven't actually got a date, but yeah, we're going to go through all the seasons of Clone Wars. Some of the seasons we're going to kind of break up a bit because from what I've not seen them, so from what I've been told, there's certain bits where they kind of have to break it up to kind of give the story a good bit of breathing room between it all.
Okay.
But I've enjoyed doing them with Mike and Dave, and Megan's been there as well. Are we doing something with Spider Dan? I don't think he's put a poll out for what that's going to be yet, but there'll be a sort of a few different films. So that'll be, but I think that might be February or March. I think he said. So that's a bit further down the line.
Well, you're how I'm seeing in the new year, so it's been a great way to start, I think. And then yeah, people should definitely listen along. I've been watching Rebels with my eldest. We've done up to the season 3, so I've been listening to you guys as we finished each season. So
Yeah,
I'm a bit behind, and I've too have never watched. Well, I've watched season 1 of the Clone Wars, which is
right.
I don't know how if you started watching it halfway in was, as I understand it, by far the weakest and was enough for me to go, yeah, maybe I won't bother. So I'm going to try and use you as my inspiration for getting back into watching it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of have to do now.
Yeah, true.
It's like we made Megan watch the Clone Wars film, which
Yeah.
I don't think it was that bad. Um, but again, I've come off a bit of a high from all the different Star Wars stuff, so maybe I've got a bit of an advantage there. I mean, when I watched Rebels, Ahsoka were coming out, and everything just seemed to hit really well, perfect timing for me. So yeah, it's interesting to go through. I do keep trying to get my youngest to watch it with me, and some of the episodes is liking, and some of them it kind of wanders off. We end up playing with Lego on the floor. But yeah, he's going to be 5 in January, so he's starting to get to the point where we watched Jingle All the Way earlier, and we've watched the Home Alones. He's starting to kind of actually sit and pay attention to a lot of films now. So I can't wait till the point where I can sit down and start, right, we're going to watch Star Wars and that. I've done it with my eldest. I can do it again with my youngest and that, but he's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, totally fair.
The fun of being a parent.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. You will like the things I used to like.
Yeah.
Cheers, mate. And thank you everyone else for listening and partaking with me in this journey through the Stath filmography. That was Hummingbird, or Redemption, or Crazy Joe, whatever you want to call it. Next up in a fortnight is Homefront, featuring Renaissance man Glyn, followed by The Expendables 3, with Max Baird back once more to discuss the nostalgic action franchise for anyone that is watching along. I'm Jack's Musings, and that's JACS, and you can find me on X where I'm most active. You can also contact the show directly on X under the name Back to the Filmog. Make sure you use the hashtag #FollowTheFilmography. I'm also a proud member of the Comics Emotion family, a super place full of the world's greatest people, dedicated to bringing you podcasts on a variety of geeky topics. So, please make sure you take the time to search, subscribe, and rate our shows, such as Rebels and Clone Wars rewatches, whenever and wherever you listen. Until next time, be excellent to each other, and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers. Cut.